Hi all, this is another example of solving a quadratic equation. We're going to check out one that lends itself nicely to one of our other tricks. In this case, using square roots to get rid of the second power works beautifully in solving this. Basically, what this one boils down to is because there is a single w on one side of the equation, we can go straight to reverse order of operations to isolate w. So if I'm looking over here at my w, if I chose a number and plugged it in, replaced the w with it, the first thing I would do to that number would be to subtract 3. I would then square that and then multiply by 2. And I want to do that exact opposite order to get rid of each thing that's attached to the w. So the last thing I said I would do is multiply by 2, which means the first thing I should get rid of is that 2, and I should do it by dividing both sides of the equation by 2. So to get rid of a multiplication, we use a division. Okay. The next thing I need to get rid of is the second power. The inverse operation for squaring something is square rooting, and here's a step where we need to be extremely careful. It is completely legal to square root both sides of an equation, but you have to be aware of the fact that there are actually two things that you can square to get 7/2. It's the square root of 7/2 or the opposite of the square root of 7/2. So anytime you introduce a square root into an equation, you need to make sure you include a plus or minus with that. This is not optional, and it needs to happen right in the step where you introduce the square root. We're almost done. Last thing that needs to happen here is we need to get rid of the 3. Since it's a subtract 3, we're going to add 3 to both sides to get rid of it. It doesn't matter what order you write this stuff in on the right-hand side. So if you prefer, you can say this. And that is equally correct. I don't have a preference. I don't need you to write this out as two separate solutions, but you should realize that it is two separate solutions. This is saying I got one answer, 3 plus the square root of 7/2, and a second answer, 3 minus the square root of 7/2. There is some simplification that could happen here. You can rationalize denominators. I'm not super worried about that. I'll be completely happy if you get to right here. Once again, this was a quadratic equation, so we do not have extraneous solutions, but it's a great idea to see if you can plug your answer back in, as messy as it looks, and see if you actually do get a true statement. So go ahead and practice that if you'd like to, but do not plug answers back in and then decide that you have an extraneous solution. You should throw a solution away. That's not an option for a quadratic. All right, thanks.